is going on, everybody? Welcome in to the North End Podcast, episode 192. My name is Zach Graham, your host here in the North End, joined, as always, by my good buddy. He's on record as my best friend. His name is Ian Michaud, and we call him... Fourth time we are convening in the last 8 days, so I don't think there's much to catch up on. We are in the midst of our eternal derby in our 53-man fantasy football league semifinals here today. I just lost Jalen Hurts for the game. How you feeling?
No, I'm feeling pretty good about that for sure. You know, like you said here, fourth show here in 8 days, so I hope the people aren't too annoyed with us or anything. You know, I hope they actually like us, because it's been a heavy dose of the North End here coming at you hot and fast this last week. I'm doing great, man. Had a good night with you last night, and enjoyable time. Got some Chewies and all that. Played some FIFA where you thoroughly routed me, so I'm still recovering from that. But excited to chat a little Austin FC here, tie up the loose ends that we've had from this last week, put a little bow on it, make it look nice.
Yeah, a little extra North End here, headed into your Christmas holiday. So happy holidays, Merry Christmas, however you may be celebrating this week. Have a good one. I took care of business in FIFA last night, but then we did team up online, some 2-on-1 action, and we did okay. Didn't finish that strong, but it was a good night. I enjoyed it as well. Hope everybody is enjoying their holiday week. So again, like you said, we'll kind of put a bow on some of the topics we've been talking about at length over the last week. We do have some news, though, to talk about, some rumors, of course, at this time of the year. So before we jump into today's episode, just want to remind you all listening or watching on the YouTube channel that the best way to support the show is by downloading the audio versions of our episodes. Wherever you get your podcasts, you can toggle on auto downloads. That will support the show going forward without you having to think about it further. You can go the extra mile, rate, review, and subscribe to the pod wherever you get your podcast. And if you are watching on the YouTube channel, hitting subscribe to the channel also helps us grow the show. You can hit the notification bell to know when a live stream pops up, as 2 did this past week, or a new episode goes live. And of course, on this episode, hit the like button. Help us battle the YouTube algorithm overlords and atone for your sins. Wash yourselves clean in the holiday cheer of the North End. So we're sitting here. It is Sunday, December 22nd. We still have no smoke for Fafà Pico. We pulled the lever a week ago. What gives, man? Like, is this still happening in your mind?
Yes, absolutely. I'm still 100% on it, to be honest. You know, like we talked about earlier, Bogert does not really miss. He outlined those 3 guys that he said he really, quote unquote, liked. Mm-hmm. First 2 already came down the pipeline. Fafà is coming. I will almost guarantee it, I would say. I don't know what the holdup is. Hopefully it's some negotiations to get him in here at the right price and everything like that, crossing the T's, dotting the I's, all the good stuff that you have to do to make sure the contract looks nice. So I'm still very much on board that he will eventually be here, and we'll get him in the fold. Yeah,
I'm still 100% on this. Like, I think, like, number one, the most fun, if we put our tinfoil hats on here about when this is going to happen or why it hasn't. We did get the Christmas Eve smoke last year that turned out to be Stephen Cleveland. So it was almost like you open the present under the tree. It's like, thanks. But you're right. So like maybe we're getting some timing like that from the club here, but it could be any number of reasons, whether it's a personal thing with Fafà, maybe him wanting to get certain things in order before announcing the team announcing the move. Maybe, like you said, maybe it is some, crossing the T's, dotting the I's, little details in the contract that is still being worked out. But I'm right there with you. So I guess to kind of wrap that up, let's do a little Christmas time over under here. I will give you over under by the time you go to sleep on Christmas Day. So the end of Christmas Day, right? Is this announced before the end of Christmas Day or after?
I'm going to say after. Okay. I do think that it would have been done by now if it wasn't like, there's something holding this up a little bit. And like you said, we did get that Christmas Eve smoke, but I hope people aren't working and finalizing this contract on Christmas Day,
Right.
to be honest.
Yeah.
So I'm going to go ahead and say after Christmas. I also had that theory earlier that maybe we're waiting a little bit to try to like knock these guys out all at once. I don't think that is a huge priority on anyone's sorts of list, when they're going through how to get this done and everything. But I did speculate on that. So, I'll give myself a little credit. Well, not credit, but give myself a little, just a little something here to see.
Yeah. Little Christmas cookie, I guess. Yeah. So, we also talked about on Friday's live stream that we had picked up a U22 rumor out of Uruguay. And thanks to our buddy Long, who pointed out some text in the MLS roster rules and regulations surrounding U22s. I'm going to, and I'm curious your thoughts here. I want to pull back on that rumor and say that for me, that is now squashed. And let me tell you why. In the eligibility rules for U22 initiative slots, the language says this: a player must be 22 years old or younger in the first year he is eligible to play in an MLS game. And then it says, example, not eligible for 2024 if the player turns 23 in 2024. So you apply that to 2025. We looked at Bruno Damiani was the player's name. His birthday is like in the first half of the season, like right before summer, I believe. So he'll turn 23. And like by reading this, I don't think we can sign him to a U22 deal. And so then to me, this potential signing, the interest that we had picked up on through the, flimsy Twitter account and the reports on that player potentially being shopped to an MLS side, I don't think it makes sense anymore. So I'm going to put that in the rear view for myself.
Yeah, I would say it's dead. I don't think that you would bring him in on any other type of roster designation. I don't think he's a DP quality player or anything like that. And I don't know how you would fit him in otherwise, because as we outlined plenty of times here, we got to hit these U22 slots. And that was definitely the most intriguing aspect of that rumor when it came across the desk there, was that he'd be able to come in on the U22. But that language seems pretty clear to me. So it does seem like this one is dead.
Yeah. And if it's not, then like, why does the rule say, like, why is that even used as an example? If if we were able to. So, I also think it does make me think a little bit about like, since Rodolfo Borrell took over, right? A year and a half ago, essentially at this point, I feel like a lot of our rumors, and maybe this also was true with the Claudio Reyna regime, but with these roto guys, the international signings, like if I recall correctly, like the first time we heard about whispers of Mikkel Dessler, of Osman Bukhari, right? These international guys, those rumors were coming from overseas before they ever got to a Tom Bogert or anybody else in the, stateside in terms of MLS, the MLS rumor mill. So that's also something I've been looking for, is like, if there's an international report from a domestic based outlet, like I don't think we've seen that. So that's something or we haven't seen one actually come through in that manner, right? The international players, which we think, especially after that international slot trade on Friday, that we're going to see a number of those come through. It's just something I'm looking out for and trying to kind of place. Like we hear the Fafà rumor from Bogert first. Well, Fafà is already in MLS, so like that makes sense to me. So again, just I've got all the rumor stuff swirling around in my head pretty much 24/7 right now. So these are the types of things I'm thinking about on, a Saturday night.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if we're going by precedent or anything like that, and like that you could apply this sort of logic and thinking to every situation, because I think everything's a little fluid, everything's a little bit different in their, intricacies. So, we were chatting about it a little bit last night and getting into it, and obviously, from a global perspective, soccer, football, what have you, is the dominant sport in most of these countries you're trying to get
Right.
these players from. So you have that reporting kind of in place because that's what everyone's on, looking for soccer stuff. So having this stuff come earlier from across the pond or a different country or whatever, I think makes sense and lines up with what you've been talking about with Book and with Dessler there. So we'll see. And I would love to see something like that come across the desk here where it's like rumors of a nice player, a DP level player, caliber player coming over here and stuff like that. So we'll have to see how it plays out.
I think that's like with the Marvin Dukes rumor from, 2 months back at this point, like that was a factor in it. Like not only does like the player profiles, like we need a striker and we have a DP slot, but like getting that from the general vicinity of where that player is actually playing in the Bundesliga is also something that it just lines up with the small sample size of international signings we have in in the Rotoverse here over the first 18 months. And it would be interesting to go back and see the reporting on Guilherme Biru. And like, did we get Brazilian rumors before we got Bogert saying, oh, hey, Austin's signing this guy Biru. I don't know who he is, a third, fourth, fifth division, whatever. So anyway, let's keep it pushing here. I don't remember if this was Thursday or Friday morning, but the most important part of this is we got the GAM totals. So your general allocation money totals for every team in the league. And this is as of December 10th. So we got this late in the week, and I want to share this on the screen here for those watching on the YouTube. So this is the GAM totals for every club as of December 10th. And like, keep in mind, general allocation money has been around, I think, 2 decades now. So for 20 years, MLS fans and the sickos, right, I'm sure have been pining for, like, give us more transparency around this. Targeted allocation money, I believe, was introduced in 2015. And so that's been around, obviously, a little bit, it has not been around as long as GAM. And this is just almost like the meme of, like, I've been working on this story for months, and he just tweeted it out. Like, it's just like, we've been working on our sheets for months, and I know that there's, like, I think American Soccer Analysis is now teasing that they're going to have a trade machine because we have these GAM allocations. Like, we're working on this thing, and all of a sudden they just gave us all the information. And now, like, this doesn't read like something that they're going to, update us on frequently throughout the year. Maybe we get a document similar to this in the middle of the season, but this is so, like, saying this is better than nothing is a huge understatement. Like, this is a big window compared to what the information we had on hand before this week. And you can see, like, right at the top, Atlanta United 6.5 million in GAM. I believe they lead the way here in MLS. Austin sitting on 3.162 million E. And so how I understand this is this total includes the 2025 GAM allocations for every team, which is 2.93 million. That is the 2025 season allocation of general allocation money. So we are sitting about 170K above that number. So if that is the case here, and I think it is, we came into the offseason with about 170K in GAM in terms of excess GAM from last season. So I have a couple questions here, right?
Okay.
We used the 2-4 GAM route in the middle of the season when they first implemented that rule. That gave us 1 million in GAM, and we knew we had to use that GAM. So I guess the biggest question for me is, I'm not surprised that our number is not massive, right? Because we know we've been getting out from under a very poor cap situation. But we transferred Johan Romagna out for 750K the beginning of last season, or shortly thereafter, shortly after the season started. I don't remember the exact date, but that transfer fee, that's burned into my brain. 750K. And we could, despite the rule change in terms of the amount of GAM you could convert, we could convert that entire 750K. So I want to know, either did we convert it and we were really that low on GAM where that entire 750K was used, and that's totally plausible with some of the unknown transfer fees that we were paying TAM on, so that could have taken our allocation money coffers down further than we projected. But like, did we not convert that into GAM. Because like there is like going back to, did we convert it and just use it all? Like we traded a certain amount of GAM in the Matt Hedges trade. That was 2025 GAM. I think there was a sprinkle of 25 GAM on the Adam Lundqvist deal, if I'm not mistaken, or 2024 rather. So I think there's potential that we did convert Romagna's transfer fee into GAM, and that has essentially been used up. But isn't there also, like, looking at this, there's a non-zero chance that we did not take the opportunity to convert that into GAM, and the ownership just pocketed it, which at some point you're going to make those decisions, and it makes more business sense for, again, things that we will never have transparency towards, you know, the total books for the club, right? But that was just a question I had, like, and there's no way to know, again, so like it's like feed me more, like you give us all these GAM numbers and now we have new questions, or questions that now we can legitimately ask and kind of debate about. So I know you probably don't have a good answer because we don't know, but I thought it was an interesting thing to think about now that we have this number and we kind of know what was in the coffers before we got our new allocation for the coming season.
Yep. So like with that scenario, right, you're saying that we would be at about 2.4 GAM if you converted the entirety of Romagna, basically, you know, rounding up some numbers, some figures and everything like that.
Well, so no, what I'm saying is if we had converted the entire 750K GAM from the Romagna sale and not used any of it, then this would say, you know, 3.8 million in GAM instead of 3.1 there, you know, give or take. Okay. But I also don't think, like, I do think that some of that 750K, if we converted it, was certainly applied last year because of all the things that Roto's having to cover from previous contracts. And then whatever he was maneuvering with buying Alex Ring down, using the rest of that 1 million GAM somewheres. We speculated that it was on the Svatak transfer fee. So again, we don't know, but that's how I'm kind of saying, like, I feel like this number would be higher if we didn't, but it's totally plausible that we converted it and used all 750K on something. So again, maybe this is just a conversation in futility, but like it was something that crossed my mind.
I mean, we've been waiting for these numbers and figures for so long, like you mentioned, 2 decades of not having this information available to the general public. So, you know, this is a good step in the right direction. We're going to have to obviously, hopefully, get some more, you know, in-depth insights into how this is all being allocated and what's being moved and everything. But like you said, it's totally plausible that the, you know, the investors in this team took some of that 750K or all of it and divvied it amongst themselves, you know, at
or
the
used
board
it for something else in the club.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know.
So, you know, I don't want people to get the pitchforks out or whatever because we were so excited about that 750K for Romagna. Because I mean, what an absolute steal of a deal there.
Either way, it's still a steal. Yeah.
Yes, that's a great deal. So, like, I really don't know, and as you mentioned, like, I'm not going to have the answer here, but it is an interesting thought process.
Yeah. Well, and this is like these types of questions are the things that I wish the media members that gather at Roto's press conferences had the time to ask him, because typically, you know, he talks for about an hour. Most people get 2 questions. Sometimes they get a second round there, but it's like when we get the Roto pressers, it's usually because something big has happened, and the questions, of course, trend towards the topic at hand. And so, you know, that's where, you know, when he makes the kind of snide comments a year ago about, oh, I'm sure all of you guys are MLS experts because you're here asking me questions. It's like, well, we do have some MLS, you know, not experts, but like we have plenty of sickos in the fan base. And like, I wish we had time to press him on, you know, the Romagna stuff or this GAM total or what you did with the 2-4 GAM route last year and that extra million in GAM. How was that applied? You know, maybe the most burning question for me that I would love to ask Roto from the sicko's point of view is, how did you get Matt Bersano on the supplemental? Because that would, you know, shed some light on, can we do this with some guys this year? Maybe a Stephen Cleveland or Owen Wolf, what have you, with his new salary. But either way, GAM totals here. Some other notable ones we talked about: Atlanta. New England, with some of the moves they've made over the last couple of years, was sitting on about 5.6. They used a large chunk of that, 2 million plus, shifted that over to Inter Miami for Leo Campana late in the week. So now Miami is sitting on more than 5 million in GAM. And you know, with their roster, they're going to need it. 2 million for the Houston Dynamo. I believe they are the lowest on this list. And that sent you and I last night when we were hanging out down a rabbit hole looking at the Houston Dynamo's permanent transfer of an international slot to from, I believe, New York Red Bull. But the thing that kills their cap or their GAM with that move is that they did not make a one-time payment of GAM. It is an annual payment of GAM, is how you and I understand it. So, like, I guess if we want to just stomp on our rivals to the southeast there, I'm all for it. But that just blows my mind that anybody would ever be in the position to be able to make that move and have nobody in the front office being like, no, and you're fired.
Yeah, and we were talking about those moves that Houston had made earlier in this offseason, and this sheds a little bit of light on potentially why they're having to make some of those budget cuts and like difficult moves to get rid of some high quality players. And you look at that figure, and I mean, they're close to $1 million less than almost everyone on this list. You see Galaxy there coming in at 2.4, but like it's a substantial difference for the Dynamo. And again, I don't think we ever found the amount that they were paying for this permanent international slot. But I mean, could it be on a moving scale? Obviously money changes a lot throughout a lifetime. So I'm not really sure, but yes, absolutely love to see them suffer like that. And I think that this really points to the fact of, you saw the Ache departure, Lakeith gone, a couple other guys Steve Clark. Some, so like some starters and integral role pieces there. So like that's really interesting. And I think that this might be a bit of a clue as to why they've had to do that.
Yeah, dude, they're like, it's $900K below the number of the 2025 GAM allocation. So again, like, is all of that from the international slot trade? I don't think so.
No.
But it also seems like it's not an insignificant amount that they're being dinged every year for this trade they made like 10 plus years ago.
I agree. That's just,
and again,
so
like
crazy.
I love to see it. Cause like, I really do like Houston. I know we like got excited at the beginning of last year with the injuries they had and said they were going to miss the playoffs and all that. But like, I think they're going to struggle, man.
Yeah.
Like, without some significant changes in getting one of, cause this to me, they have to, not to talk about Houston here for too fucking long, but like they have to be a 2-4 game team. I feel like, and we know their two DPs are both strikers. So like they are in a bad way.
Absolutely. And one's just they're getting absolutely nothing out of.
Yeah. Yep.
Just blows my mind. This league, you get a lifetime deal.
Well, let's keep it pushing here, because we have a couple other things just to wrap up the schedule release live stream from Thursday, and appreciate everybody who tuned in. If you want to hear that full schedule release breakdown, we did about 35-40 minutes. Our buddy Brian Hensley, the North End, one of the North End Pirates, jumped in, talked about his involvement in the schedule release video this year. So if you want a more full look at the schedule, you can go back. That's either on our YouTube channel or you can just scroll back to in your podcast feed. But the things I wanted to point out here from the schedule that we did not discuss on that live stream is the league kind of kowtowing to our wishes, and I'm sure they have some research that said this would be a good thing to do. Spreading out the schedule, like give us an early slot on a Saturday, give us a Sunday night soccer, as it were. Like, give us one of those. So those of us who go to the games every week, and, if all the games are 6:30, 7:30, 8:30, if we're going to the 7:30 Austin game, we can't see any other games. So there are these special schedule slots for kind of prime time, as it were, in the afternoon on Saturdays and Sunday afternoon games, some of them as well. Austin actually has 5 of their 34 games in some of these special slots, and it is front loaded here. 3 of our 5 are in March. So we start out at LAFC on March 15th is a 2:30 p.m. Central Saturday slot. So it'll be a 12:30 p.m. Kickoff there in Los Angeles. So then the next weekend, that's San Diego coming to Q2 on the 23rd of March. That's Sunday afternoon, 3 p.m. Central there in March. So that could be just a lovely game weather-wise, mid-afternoon in March. But you get the Sunday slate there. And then the next week, you're on the road, also in the Sunday afternoon slot against St. Louis City. So 3 weeks in a row, dude, we are in the primetime slot or afternoon slot on Saturday or Sunday. And I think that's pretty cool. And like, again, if I can just slide the tinfoil hat on here, like, is the league trying to highlight Austin matches before we get to the end of the season when we traditionally blow? So highlight, like, get them a home game when all the fans are for sure going to be there, in the first month. And like, we haven't died out yet. And then highlighting us in 2 road matches too. It doesn't feel like it's unintentional to put, we also, March 19th. That is the Saturday, 12:30 p.m. Central. We get the Galaxy in an early afternoon game again here in April. So that's kind of identical to last year. So again, that's like 4 of our first 8 games.
Look, man, it's exciting for sure. I definitely don't think that they intentionally front loaded us here, but when you brought up the schedule, and you mentioned the lack of midweek games, and stuff like that, I was just so excited about that. Good for the liver, good for the wallet. Try to reserve the heavy drinking to the weekends and everything like that when we're at the game or watching the game and everything. But I'm quite satisfied with the schedule now. We broke it down pretty in depth when we had the live stream and everything like that. And we mentioned that this month of March was pretty loaded, as is that month of May there. But I think that there's some really advantageous months that we can take advantage of and have some matchups that on paper right now look pretty nice. Even with this July month here, you have the 2 LA teams sandwiched in between some very winnable matchups with Eastern Conference opponents, and I really, really like that. Then you get that little bit of a rivalry month there in August. We get Houston and Dallas, in a short period. I think back to back, correct?
Yeah, in August there to begin August.
Yes. And then like you have Montreal there, another very winnable game. So like I've liked how this schedule has come out for Austin and the way it looks on paper right now. Yeah. Obviously things are going to change. Players are going to be moving. We're going to get players in. Other players are going to, sign with other clubs and everything. But on paper right now, I think this is a very favorable schedule for the boys in Verde and Black.
When you see the June month where you have just 3 games too, and like if you look, we host Red Bulls on the 14th of June. And then we host LAFC on the 15th of July. And just the game at Seattle on the 28th of June. I believe that is in large part because, or rather the LAFC match is July 5th. So like a 3.5 week break there between Red Bulls and LAFC with just the Sounders road match on the 28th. I believe that is because the league is going to take a pause for the Club World Cup in the second half of June. That's why there's the schedule gap there. And again, that's nice for us because if we don't have to Leagues Cup, we don't have to Open Cup during that. You get some bye weeks in the middle of the season where, again, traditionally we have started to struggle as the season progresses. And, we've got some international guys too that maybe Svatak and Buka, like guys like that are out during those international windows in June and, later in the season too. So like getting some of these bye weeks in there. It's good for a team that, again, we just historically don't do well when there is other things on the menu or on the schedule, rather.
Yep. And look, the language and the stuff that has come out from the league's office, I think has been really encouraging. I think that they're trying to make the appropriate tweaks to how this schedule plays out for every MLS team where we can still be involved in some cups. We can still be involved in some of this international time where you're getting guys off and everything like that. And I just like how they're trying to maneuver this a little bit. I don't think it's ever going to be perfect because obviously we don't line up with the bigger leagues, and that's where you want to be drawing a lot of talent from. Obviously, that's where a lot of attention goes as well for soccer fans here in the States. But to be able to try to make some fixes here and some changes, I think is a step in the right direction. And we've given this league a hard time for almost the entire time Austin's been here. But I think that there's been a lot of solid progress in the right direction to make sure that this league can be at the forefront a bit more when we're in season and everything like that, as well as taking into account all of the other cups and tournaments and international duties and everything that goes on in this global sport that we are now involved in.
Yeah, I'm glad you said that. I was going to say the exact same thing. We're like, is it perfect? No. And it's probably never going to be perfect, but is it better than it was last year? Again, on paper, I think the answer is yes. Again, like this incremental steps. Could the league and its executives and ownership do more? Yes, I think so. But it's also they're making some strides in the direction that we want to see. So anything else for you on the schedule right now?
No, sir.
Our fifth special slot, by the way, is at Sporting KC, and that is Sunday, 6 p.m. on September 7th. So you see what the 5-month break between our special slot games there. So, for whatever reason, it is front loaded. Let's wrap up the draft, right? So you do have in your podcast feed or on our YouTube, if you missed the breakdown of the trade of the first round pick, and then our quick reactions to the second round pick, you can go find that live stream or the audio replay on our feed. So again, we did trade the 12th overall pick for $75K in 2026 GAM and a 2025 international slot, which is the big prize there, or at least as we see it, not just because you expand your international slots, but what that is indicative of to us is more international moves are coming, and probably 3, because again, if you want the extra slot, you're probably going to fill them out. So our buddy Greg was actually asking after the Friday stream, he's like, what the hell? We can trade international slots now? And yeah, we can. Mm-hmm. So we actually did trade one a couple months ago. I want to say at the beginning of September. It was like right before the roster freeze date, I believe was September 10th this past year. And we had an empty international slot. So we shipped that to Atlanta United for I think $75K in 2025 GAM. Again, so like maybe some of that is what we're seeing in the Austin GAM totals there. But yeah, so unless otherwise noted, like in a Houston Dynamo dipshit trade, the international slots go back to their original team at the beginning of every season. So the other part of Greg's question was, what happens next year when we have extra international guys and Colorado gets their slot back? Well, if that is the case at that time, we would have to buy another international slot, either from Colorado or from another team that had one for sale. But you can also, right, maybe we're starting the season with 9 internationals, and due to contracts that will expire and or options that we are thinking we won't pick up after this coming season, that in the plans, we have just 8 internationals or fewer to start next year. So again, that is something that these front offices have to plan out. Unless you trade or trade for an international slot forever, then you're always going to have the 9 to plan around. But thought that was a good question, a very fair question for your average fan. And just hopefully that clears some of that up. Those are transferable. We could go get another one if we needed it. But again, to Greg's point, you have to be able to plan those out year over year for as many internationals as you're going to have, which again is why when anybody gets that green card, freeing up that international slot is just so valuable.
Massive. And that's my speculation as well, is that we're going to have some sort of expiring from one of those international guys that we're not going to go ahead and extend and then close that up. Of course, like you said, we could go get another one or several more if we were so inclined. But, that was the crown jewel from that trade there, because, it does signal that we have plans to use that. You're not just going to go ahead and be like, hey, throw in an international slot in here for us as well on top of the $75K GAM. And, we'll see if we use it. To me, it signals we have a plan. We're bringing these guys in. And again, we were having a discussion last night. The 9 is coming. Hold strong, boys and girls. The 9 will be here. It's coming down the pipeline. We need one. Rodolfo Borrell is aware that you have to have a striker out there on the pitch, so we're going to get one. Just like he said, we'll put the double stamp on the Fafà and a 9 coming in here. Hopefully it's an international slot. And then you can go ahead and look at some of those U22 guys as international players as well.
Yeah. Imagine Roto. We don't need Zardes, and we don't need to replace that spot.
What's a striker?
Yeah, so the second round pick, which we touched on briefly, Riley Thomas from the University of North Carolina. Some more on Thomas. Again, we noted that he was a grad student, so he'd been there for 5 seasons. Was the team captain. And again, you read off some of his accolades from the 2023 season. He capped off his run there at UNC with all ACC first team, and he got 3rd team All-American this past year, all ACC academic team honors in multiple years there with the Tar Heels. So again, 7,600 minutes for Riley Thomas while he was in Chapel Hill. What I did notice in like looking at Riley's like Instagram and other things that people were saying about him, the fitness level of this kid, like he looks like he was born in a gym lifting weights. And he's a 5'11" center back slash fullback. So like I think maybe some of the physical fitness and like the athletic gifts that Riley Thomas does have is what allows him to, at 5'11", to compete at that high of a collegiate level and potentially be in the mix for some, FCTO center back minutes. But also the fact that he can play out at the fullback position, like we know there's going to be some turnover there with the second team this coming year. So and look, and if he can be good enough where we're going to give him a supplemental slot, or he's one of those guys that we potentially have to call up in shorthanded situations next year, even better. But he seems like, again, team captain, all ACC, not only first team, all American, all ACC academic. Like it seems like we got a kind of a potentially a steal here. Even if he doesn't end up making a huge first team impact, we know that we need guys like that. Like he comes off to me like Joe Hafferty.
Yeah. I think that's a pretty solid, somewhat lofty comparison for sure, because we know what we got out of Joe. Obviously, going to have to see it transfer here with Riley. But to your point there, we saw several mocks where he was going in the first round, and not even the significantly lower portion of the first round going
the
in
MLS
the mids.
mock, he was 11th.
Yeah, so like that to me is like people who know more about this than we do, signaling that this is a quality player. And like the stuff you read off there, obviously I have not seen Riley's highlights and throughout the entire course of his career or anything, but it seems like somebody who's committed to their profession, undersized as you mentioned, so he's making up for that by not only being, I'm assuming, having a solid soccer IQ, because he also has been transferring that to the classroom and everything like that, but working on his body, staying into that type of shape where he's physical enough where he can deal with players who are a little bit bigger than him, and then having the versatility to be able to pick him out onto the fullback potentially as well. So like I like the pick here, and I think that with the first move that we had in the first round there, when you add this on there, it's a little cherry on top, and we'll take it. I'm excited for him to be here, excited to see what he's going to bring to FCTO.
Then the third round pick, 72nd overall, after we had already shut down the stream, it was Patrick Grzewski. We'll find out soon enough how you actually pronounce Pat's name there, but from the University of Rhode Island, and kind of a midfielder slash central attacking mid is kind of how what I have gleaned from reading and looking at stats about Grzewski here. In the American Soccer Analysis breakdown, we looked at that for Riley Thomas on the stream the other night. It looks like in terms of progressive runs, getting into like initiating offensive duels, this is somebody that is going to, and I did see a little bit of a blurb about him from, I forget the outlet, but it was like, he's going to run at you and he's going to chat, like he's going to make you stop him. And also just like positionally, I think you're thinking maybe, or I'm thinking maybe is like, hopefully Micah Burton makes a step and he's able to be a little bit, more of a threat to, hey, maybe we're going to call up Micah or bring Micah up to the first team today and let him sit on the bench. Like, hopefully we're seeing a little bit more of that this year. We think Irvin Torres could be in line for a supplemental role this coming season. And so maybe Grzewski is like a guy who can play minutes when those guys are called up or rotational or what have you. But I'm excited for him. He was not as highly touted as Riley Thomas by some of those MLS draft scouts. But again, these like second and third round guys have been pretty good for FCTO over the first 2 years. So,
true.
Welcome to the two new guys and welcome to the international slot. And that's my favorite pick of this draft.
Absolutely. Welcome. Happy to have you. Let's do it.
A couple other notes just from the Super Draft. San Diego took midfielder Mano Dua from UC Santa Barbara with the first overall pick. So I imagine we will be seeing him out there for San Diego at times. Next season, the Colorado Rapids made a league high 9 draft picks. So again, that number is going to be up there for Colorado the next 3 seasons, considering they have 2 teams, their own and Phillies picks for the next 3 years. But 5 of those 9 picks were in the first round. So Colorado really trying to zig while everybody else zags. Real Salt Lake kind of in that mold as well, right behind Colorado with 8 total super draft picks this year. So
Hmm.
it's like a third of the draft is going to the Rocky Mountains this year. 35 of the 90 players were taken previously played with current MLS Next affiliated clubs. So I would imagine as MLS Next continues to grow, that number would continue to grow year over year here in the super draft. So anything else for you on the draft?
Oh, no.
So one more thing for the team here before we run through some other MLS processes. On Monday, so right after we posted the last episode, and I don't believe we talked about this on either live stream this week, on Monday, the club announced 3 new additions to Coach Estevez's coaching staff here for the 2025 season. The first thing that jumps out to me, all 3 of them have nicknames that are actually listed in the press release here, E.
Ooh.
So I thought that was a little notable. The first one, Alberto Beto Gonzalez, has joined the club as an assistant coach. Francisco Curo Galan joins as goalkeeper coach. So you would think Preston Burpo now going to move on, the previous goalkeeper coach here at Austin. And then Albert Ballesteros as field analyst coach. So I guess Albert, no nickname, but we did get 2 of the 3. And then the fourth piece of news here was assistant coach Davey Arnaud, who joined Austin FC ahead of the inaugural season in 2021, remains with the club in the same role. So I guess kind of 2 different pieces of news there. We did get the flurry of coaching additions there with Beto, Curo, and Albert. But then Davey staying around. Let's start there. What were your thoughts seeing Coach Arnaud remain with the club?
I think he's found a home. I think that he likes this organization. I think that he likes being here. And like we speculated, we really thought, when we were getting into the real nitty gritty of Josh potentially moving on, was that what was going to happen with Davey. We all kind of were fans of what he brings to the team. So I'm very excited that he's back and that he's going to have an opportunity now with a new staff and a new gaffer to go out there and try to make this thing hum and look pretty. So definitely excited to be retaining Davey.
Yeah, and I think it also points to not just that he has found a home, but that like everybody around this club, I think they want Davey to be around, right? Because you don't see a ton of coaches retained when the head coach turnover like this happens. Mm-hmm. And so like to see that Roto wants him around, Nico wants him around. I think we all kind of knew from watching the interactions. Obviously, like players in general it's easier to get along with the assistant coach compared to the head coach. That's pretty much universal. But that the guys, do have, especially the holdovers, right, have a good rapport with Davey. And so to have not everything be totally new for all of the guys that have been here for multiple years, I think is important when you have the new staff is very aligned, especially in like their history and their resumes. Like, let's run through this a little bit too. So Beto Gonzalez, new assistant coach. He comes to Austin from the UAE Football Association, where he was the State Centers of Excellence technical director and youth national team head coach. And he is a Valencia, Spain native. So is Nico. He has previously held roles for an academy coach for Valencia. So I think he probably crossed paths with Nico there. Second team head coach for Valencia and first team fitness coach. Second team head coach and first team fitness coach for Al Jazeera. Technical director for Al Ain FC and U17 head coach for Al Nasir. So he's been in the Saudi Pro League as well. And with the way the Saudi League has been going, like you're working with some big names there.
Yeah.
And a lot of money flowing through that league too. So that's Coach Gonzalez's resume there. Then Curo Galan, the new goalkeeper coach, recently worked with Al Rayed FC of the Saudi Professional League, where he spent the 23-24 season. Prior to his time with Al Rayed, he was the goalkeeper coach for Shakhtar Donetsk, where he coached current Ukrainian national team and Benfica starting keeper Antonoli Trubin. The team won the Ukrainian Premier League in 23 and reached the UEFA Europa League knockout rounds with Galan as a member of the coaching staff. And then Coach Ballesteros, the field analyst, prior to coming to Austin, first team assistant with FC Juarez. We're familiar with them from 2 years ago. So he's been with them for 2 years prior to his time in Juarez. First team analyst, U21 head coach, U15 head coach with Alajuelense in Costa Rica between 2021 and 23. He also has experience in Spain, Japan, Qatar, and India and an analyst for Liverpool FC midfielder Thiago Alcantara. So they will begin in January, joining Nico, joining Davey. Those are our three new coaching staff members.
You like to hear it, man. And as you mentioned there, I just want to, pontificate a bit more on what you were saying with Davey coming back and everything. We've had a lot of roster turnover. We've had the coaching staff turnover. We've had management turnover with this team. So something that you're trying to hold on to a little bit is still the continuity, how we want to do things here, building that chemistry. Like you said, Davey has a very solid rapport with a lot of players. I think he's well respected. And I think that is a nice little olive branch between the two regimes that we've had here in the coaching staff to be able to, just to settle things a little bit and provide that continuity, that chemistry that we're going to have to rebuild here moving into the 25 season.
Yeah. So, I mean, the new coaches, and again, like the background of all of these guys, being Spanish, having similar recent stops, there in the Saudi League, the UAE, things like that. The Liga MX experience that's coming over with Coach Ballesteros there. Excited to see what they can do, right? Austin FC 2.0, and it's coming together on the staff side. Re-entry stage 2 also happened last week. So just like stage 1, these are players who are 22 years or older with at least 1 year of MLS experience, and they were without contracts or bona fide offers and were not taken in round 1. These players who are selected must be offered a bona fide offer by the selecting club within 7 days, but if they cannot agree to a deal, that club retains the right of first refusal. So you're essentially just selecting the priority to negotiate with these players, and then you can basically say, no, you can't sign with this other team in MLS. You would have to go out of MLS or be released by that club in terms of the right of first refusal. So because you didn't hear about a new player, that Austin passed at 11, but we did have 3 players taken here in stage 2. DC United took Derek Dodson at 10. And then the 2 significant names here, San Diego FC continues to build. They took winger Yaya Boa from Columbus at 30, and then left back Franco Negri from Miami at 32, because if you choose somebody in stage 1 or stage 2, you get another pick. After everybody passes, you can go again. So they did take Franco Negri at 32. Yaboa, of course, integral part of the Columbus Crew and their cup-winning season and all the success they've had over the last couple of years. He was a TAM player. So again, this is not, we're not choosing just anybody here.
Yeah.
Yaboa, a big name. And then Franco Negri has had some big injuries each of the last 2 years, but is a guy who was starting the majority of his appearances for Inter Miami each of those last 2 seasons. So some significant names changing hands there, at least relative to what you normally see in a reentry draft stage 2. So there's your stage 2 recap.
Boom. Had to be done.
Come on down to Farmer Field where the champions play. Get ready for the game. It's last business day.
Closing out 192 with some last business day here, we have a rumor. And it appears that we're going to have a new striker in the mix for Austin FC 2. I believe this came out Wednesday or Thursday. The source was Manuel Veth, who has reported on some MLS signings, some Next Pro signings in the past. So we saw this over on Blue Sky. The new striker, I saw you make your eyebrows shot up. Vlad Dancia 2, we'll say that, and that's the only time I'm going to say it. We'll just call him Vlad. Vlad is an 18-year-old striker from Romania, but he would be coming to Austin FC 2 from the Udinese system there in the Italian league, playing with their U20s last year. He's got 7 goals in 51 appearances for the youth squads of Udinese and Sassuolo. And I apologize to the Italians if I'm, butchering those pronunciations of those clubs. I certainly have heard of them before. But again, 18-year-old striker here. And I think, again, the numbers don't jump out. Like this is just very much an Austin FC 2 type of signing, I think. Again, in the mold of a Peter Grogan or a Ruben Bonachero, Nico Van Rijn, these international guys that we've seen Roto and his staff bring over for the second team. Youth movement, right? 18 years old. But I think for the team as we know it, the biggest question to me, and I think I lean yes, does this mean Sebastian Piñol is gone? His contract was up with an option for 2025. So again, we won't know for a while unless we get the Piñol farewell message on his social media. But to me, this would be the Piñol replacement.
I think so. And, that seems a little bit unfortunate to me because we were really excited about Piñol's potential. And I think he had a really difficult season last year and, got reprimanded. I think he was in the doghouse a little bit with Utley there, got a red card earlier in the season, maybe 2, right? I think he got thrown out at 2.
I think it was at least 1.
Yeah, it was definitely 1. So he had a really difficult season, and I'm with you there. Unfortunately, I do think that signals the end of Piñol's time here in Austin.
Yeah, but again, I think one thing that we knew for sure is that Sebas Piñol was never going to be in, at least in my eyes. I don't want to speak for you, but he was never going to be a first team asset for us.
I agree.
So I enjoyed watching Piñol when we were out there at the pitch, or we're watching him on Apple TV, what have you. But we get a little bit of a youth infusion here. Not that Piñol was, an old man by any stretch. Of course, he's super young as well. But some new blood, it seems like, coming in up top for FC Tone. We'll just have to wait on the club for confirmation of Vlad. I'm sure we can get a nickname for Vlad. We might have to, because even when we're told the pronunciation, I don't know if I'm going to be able to hit that one every week.
No, Vlad's good.
Right. Anything else for you, E, on episode 192?
No, sir. I got to get this dog out. He's getting a little restless here.
All right, everybody. Well, that'll do it for us. We appreciate you tuning in, sticking with us here on episode 192 of the North End Podcast. And if you listen to the other shows and streams we dropped over the last 8 days, you're a real one. Once again, from us to you, happy holidays. Hope you have a great week, a Merry Christmas, and we will see you back here next Sunday for another episode of the North End Podcast. Maybe a live stream between now and then. We'll see. But we'll be recapping everything that happens in the Austin FC universe between now and then. Enjoy your week, everybody. We'll do the same. We'll see you back here on Sunday. Till then, he's E, and I'm Zach. Vamos Austin FC, everybody. Goodbye.